Pada kesempatan kali ini saya mendapatkan judul The Global Economic of 21st Century and the Textile with Global Economic Development in the 21st Century and the Positive and Negative Effect of Globalization. Untuk question 1 are based to world trade difficult. The answer is trade breeze in the world still excite, but not the are getting easier and the tend to decline. And question 2, do globalization have an bad impact on the country? The answer, globalization has an bad impact on the country such as the occurrence of charisma easily spit on the country. Domestic products are diffused to development and are unable to compete with foreign products, but is a slow have positive impact on the country such as trade becomes fast and easy. The technology is more advanced and fast. Untuk kesimpulan, in paragraph 1, the tell about the global economic and some country the area heading toward of economic system, and in paragraph 2 tell the benefit and dangers of economic globalization in the world, such technology development, care the can speak quickly to other country and can create recession. The for every country or company must cause what system is right to overcome this. Sekian dari saya, terima kasih.
Ya, di sini saya akan menjelaskan pada subbab the globalization debate. Saya memiliki pertanyaan, what makes economic growth increase? Apa yang membuat pertumbuhan ekonomi itu meningkat? Globalization makes economic growth increase. Globalization can increase economic growth, source and customer income, and help open jobs. Countries participant in global trade. Kesimpulannya dari sepemahaman saya, globalization has many benefit for the economy. It can add as helper to the economy. Namely, it can increase economic and open jobs. Namun, globalisasi is also can be some as an obstacle for many people who are instead making voice calls and actively talking to the world to spread voice malware. Selanjutnya saya akan menjelaskan pada subbab anti-globalization process. Saya memiliki pertanyaan, why are so many people afraid by figures and sense when has information technology be such? Mengapa banyak orang yang menentang globalisasi dan sejak kapan sih globalisasi itu ditentang? Lots of people do not support globalization because technology is thought to have many drawbacks and even this. Ventex. Uh, One of the things that many people opt because globalization can make some employees lose their jobs and in which there are many forgets competition. Many employers WordPress levels are not complete and many more. This globalization peaked around Desember 1999 at the time approximately 40.000 persons from in Victor talk around strike. Kesimpulannya, globalisasi has a bad impacts on the some circle because globalization cause some employed work in industry that is attacked by for competition to be fair, get an import salary, and conditions are held up where the work training organization wants to hold a meeting to try lots new rounds of the talks to converse to cross border their investments past the is seen as a promoter of the experience restaurant in resting from anarchis.
Baik, saya akan melanjutkan untuk halaman selanjutnya. First, survey. The text discusses the anti-globalization movement and the concern that many people have about the effects of globalization on living standards and the environment. The text also mentions that these fears may be exaggerated, but they are still a cause for concern. The passing of a war rich in diversity is also discussed, with some people mourning its loss, while others welcome the higher living standards that globalization brings. Q question: what are some of the concerns that may people have about the effect of globalization, and why might these fears be exaggerated? How are the protests against globalization tapping into a sense of loss, and why might this sense of loss differ between citizens of developed and developing countries? The answer is many people have concern about the effect of globalization on various aspects, such as job, income, living standard, and the environment. One of the main concerns is that globalization may lead to the outsourcing of jobs to countries with lower wage, which can result in job losses and lower wage in developed countries. Additionally, some argue that globalization may result in environmental degradation and harm to local communities. This fear may be exaggerated because evidence suggests that globalization has overall positive effect on economic growth, job creation, and poverty reduction, although there may be some negative effects on specific industries or regions in the short term. Protests against globalization tap into a sense of loss of cultural diversity and local control. Many people feel that globalization promotes homogenization and uniformity, erasing unique cultural and social difference. In this sense of loss may differ between citizens of development and developing countries because citizens of developing countries may have greater access to the benefit of globalization, such as higher living standards and greater economic opportunities, while citizens of developing countries may feel more vulnerable to its negative effect, such as exploitation and environmental degradation. The text argued that many people have concern about the negative effect of globalization on living standards and the environment. While this fear may be exaggerated, they are still a cause for concern. The text also notes that protests against globalization are tapping a general sense of loss at the passing of a world rich in diversity, while citizens of the development world may mourn the loss of this world. Citizens of developing countries welcome the higher living standard that globalization brings. Reflects. The text suggests that many people have concern about the negative effect of globalization on living standards and the environment. However, the text also notes that this fear may be exaggerated. The protests against globalization are tapping into a general sense of losing at the passing of a world rich in diversity, which is now giving way to a more globalized world. This sense of loss may differ between citizens of developed and developing countries. As citizens of developing countries may welcome the higher living standard that globalization brings. Besides, the text argues that many people have concern about the negative effects of globalization on living standards and the environment, but this fear may be exaggerated. Protests against globalization are tapping into a general sense of loss at the passing of a world rich in diversity. Citizens of developed countries may mourn this loss, while citizens of developing countries may welcome the higher living standards that globalization brings. The text discusses the concern that many people have about the negative effect of globalization on living standards and the environment. While this fear may be exaggerated, they are still a cause for concern. The protests against globalization are tapping into a sense of loss at the passing of a world rich in diversity. This sense of loss may differ between citizens of development and developing countries, as citizens of developing countries may welcome the higher living standard that globalization brings. Page 2. Globalization, Jobs, and Income. Survey. Globalization, jobs, and income are the main topic of this text. Question. What is the main concept voiced by opponents of globalization? The answer. The main concern voiced by opponents of globalization is that falling barrier to international trade may lead to destruction of manufacturing jobs in wealthy advanced economies such as United States and the United Kingdom. Critics argue that falling trade barriers allow firms to move manufacturing activities to countries where wage rate is much lower, resulting in job losses for workers in the advanced economies. The example of hardwood industry, a U.S. clothing manufacturer that closed its U.S. operation, where it paid workers $90 per hour, and shifted manufacturing to Honduras, where textile workers received 48 cents per hour, is often cited as evidence of this phenomenon. These opponents argue that globalization and free trade policies are contributing to the decline of the middle class and widening income inequality in developed countries. Opponents of globalization worry that removal of trade barriers allow firms to move their manufacturing activities to countries where wages are lower, thus leading to job losses in wealthy advanced economies such as the United States and the United Kingdom. Bartlett and Steele, two journalists for the Philadelphia Inquirer, provide an example of hardwood industry, a U.S. clothing manufacturer that closes its U.S. operation, paying workers $9 per hour, and shifted manufacturing to Honduras, where workers receive 48 cents per hour. According to the journalists, the wage rate of poor Americans has fallen significantly over the past quarter of a century due to moves such as this. Reflects. The text suggests that the removal of trade barriers may have negative consequences for workers in advanced economies such as the US and the UK. It raises the question of whether globalization benefit all individual and whether the gain of globalization are distributed equally. Recite. Opponents of globalization are concerned that foreign trade barriers lead to job losses in advanced economies such as the US and UK. Bartlett and Steele, two journalists for the Philadelphia Inquirer, provide the example of hardwood industry as a U.S. clothing manufacturer that closed its U.S. operation, paying workers $9 per hour, and shifted manufacturing to Honduras, where workers receive 48 cents per hour. This, they argue, has contributed to falling wage rates for poor Americans over the past quarter of a century. Review. The text discusses the concern of globalization opponents that falling barriers to international trade destroy manufacturing jobs in advanced economies. It provides an example of U.S. clothing manufacturer that moved its operation to Honduras, contributing to falling wage rates in the U.S. The text raises questions about whether the gains in globalization are distributed equally and whether globalization benefits all individuals.
Introduce, my name is Rido. I want to convey the result of the second paragraph of the SQ4R, page 20, as Survey Explore. The title is Free Trade, and this text has a lot to say about this. Key question: what happens when a country embraces free trade? What are the advantages of free trade. 4R. 1. Read the text actively, and 3. To understand the main point. According to technology advocates, the benefit of free trade outweigh the cost. They argue that countries so specialize in the production of the goods and services they can produce most efficiently while adopting the goods they cannot produce efficiently. Number 2. Recite. Say what you just read in your own words. Globalization advocates argue that countries benefit from specials in what they do based on adopting what they don't. While there might be some lost jobs in certain industry, the economy as a whole benefit from free trade. Number 3. Review the text and not you just to consider that you understand. Proponents of globalization believe that free trade results in countries producing the goods and services they can produce most efficiently while importing goods and services they cannot. While there might be some lost jobs in certain industry, the economy as a whole benefit from lower price and increased trade. Number 4. Reflect on the information you have just read and consider how it relates to your own experience and knowledge. Free trade and applicability are often continuous topics, and both have advantages and disadvantages. While it can lead to job losses in certain industries, free trade can lead to lower price for consumers and increased economic growth. However, it is important to ensure that benefits are distributed equitably and vulnerable groups are not left behind. Baik, saya akan menjawab pertanyaan yang telah saya buat. What happens when a country embraces free trade? There is always dislocation, the loss of a textile job in the industry, or the loss of a job, and it will also result in countries that specialize in the production of those goods and services they can most efficiently produce. But while importing goods and services they cannot produce efficiently. Pertanyaan yang kedua, what are the advantages of free trade? That is, just as the increased income generated in China from textile export increased the level of income in that country, which helps the Chinese to buy more product in the United States.
A second source of concern is that free trade encourages firms from advanced nations to move manufacturing facilities to less developed countries that lack adequate regulation to protect labor and the environment from abuse by the unscrupulous. 5.8 Globalization critics often argue that adhering to labor and environmental regulation significantly increases the cost of manufacturing enterprises and puts them at the competitive disadvantage in the global marketplace. Fish Firm best in developing nations that do not have to comply with such regulation. If this were the case, one might expect free trade to lead to an increase in population and result in freedom from advanced nations exploiting the labor of less developed nations. They argue that her environmental regulation and stricter labor standards go hand in hand with economic progress.
SQ4R pada teks yang berjudul Free Trade and the Environment Survey. Teks ini membahas pandangan dari para pendukung perdagangan bebas dan globalisasi terhadap kaitan antara regulasi lingkungan dan tenaga kerja yang ketat dengan kemajuan ekonomi. Mereka berpendapat bahwa perdagangan bebas dapat memicu pertumbuhan ekonomi negara-negara berkembang dan mendorong penerapan regulasi lingkungan dan tenaga kerja yang lebih ketat. Pertanyaannya, nomor 1, apa pendapat para pendukung perdagangan bebas dan globalisasi terkait kaitan antara regulasi lingkungan dan tenaga kerja yang ketat dengan kemajuan ekonomi? Pertanyaan nomor 2, mengapa mereka berpendapat demikian? Pertanyaan nomor 3, di Amerika Serikat berapa persen penurunan konsentrasi polutan karbon monoksida dan sulfur dioksida di atmosfer? Saya akan menjawab pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang tadi. Apa pendapat para pendukung perdagangan bebas dan globalisasi terkait kaitan antara regulasi lingkungan dan tenaga kerja yang ketat dengan kemajuan ekonomi? Mereka berpendapat bahwa peraturan lingkungan yang lebih ketat dan standar tenaga kerja yang lebih ketat dengan kemajuan ekonomi. Secara umum, ketika negara menjadi lebih kaya, mereka memperlakukan peraturan lingkungan dan tenaga kerja yang lebih keras. Mengapa mereka berpendapat demikian? Karena perdagangan bebas memungkinkan negara-negara berkembang untuk meningkatkan tingkat pertumbuhan ekonomi mereka dan menjadi lebih kaya. Hal ini akan mengarah pada undang-undang lingkungan dan tenaga kerja yang lebih ketat. Pertanyaan nomor 3, di Amerika Serikat berapa persen penurunan konsentrasi polutan karbon monoksida dan sulfur dioksida di atmosfer dan konsentrasi timbal? Menurun sebesar 60% antara tahun 1978 dan 1997, sedangkan konsentrasi timbal menurun sebesar 98%, dan pengurangan ini terjadi dengan latar belakang ekspansi ekonomi yang berkonsentrasi timbal. 4R-nya pertama yaitu rate. Para pendukung perdagangan bebas dan globalisasi berpendapat bahwa regulasi lingkungan dan tenaga kerja yang lebih ketat akan muncul seiring dengan pertumbuhan ekonomi. Negara-negara yang semakin kaya akan menerapkan regulasi yang lebih ketat terhadap lingkungan dan tenaga kerja. Mereka percaya bahwa perdagangan bebas akan mendorong pertumbuhan ekonomi negara-negara berkembang dan memacu penerapan regulasi lingkungan dan tenaga kerja yang lebih ketat. Mereka berpendapat bahwa kritikus perdagangan bebas salah kaprah karena perdagangan bebas tidak menyebabkan polusi dan eksploitasi tenaga kerja, malahan dapat menguranginya. Yang kedua yaitu rate. Para pendukung perdagangan bebas dan globalisasi percaya bahwa perdagangan bebas dapat memicu pertumbuhan ekonomi dan mendorong negara-negara untuk menerapkan regulasi lingkungan dan tenaga kerja yang lebih ketat. Mereka berpendapat bahwa kritikus perdagangan bebas salah kaprah karena perdagangan bebas dapat mengurangi populasi dan eksploitasi tenaga kerja. Yaitu yang ketiga, refleks. Dalam pandangan para pendukung perdagangan bebas dan globalisasi, regulasi lingkungan dan tenaga kerja yang lebih ketat akan muncul seiring dengan pertumbuhan ekonomi. Meskipun populasi meningkat di negara-negara miskin, populasi telah menurun di negara maju, seperti Amerika Serikat. Pandangan ini dapat menjadi bahan diskusi dan debat yang menarik terkait dampak perdagangan bebas terhadap lingkungan dan tenaga kerja. Yang terakhir yaitu review. Para pendukung perdagangan bebas dan globalisasi berpendapat bahwa perdagangan bebas dapat memicu pertumbuhan ekonomi dan mendorong negara-negara untuk menerapkan regulasi lingkungan dan tenaga kerja yang lebih ketat. Pandangan ini menarik untuk diperdebatkan terkait dampak perdagangan bebas terhadap lingkungan dan tenaga kerja. Meskipun demikian, populasi telah menurun di negara-negara maju seperti Amerika yang menunjukkan bahwa perdagangan bebas tidak selalu berdampak buruk pada lingkungan dan tenaga kerja.
Another concern voiced by critics of globalization is that today's increasingly interdependent global economies shift economic power away from national governments and toward supranational organizations such as the World Trade Organization, the European Union, and the United Nations. As perceived by critics, unelected bureaucrats now impose policies on the democratically elected governments of nations started thereby undermining the sovereignty of those started and limiting the nation's ability to control its own destiny. The arbitration panel can issue a ruling instructing a member state to change trade policies.
Selanjutnya untuk halaman 24. First, survey. The text discusses the power and influence of supranational organization, particularly the WTO, and how this can affect democratic decision making. Question: what concerns are raised about the power of the WTO and how it can affect democratic decision making? The answer: the concerns raised about the power of WTO are that many decisions that affect the lives of people around this world are no longer made by local or national government, but instead are deferred to a group of unelected bureaucrats sitting behind closed doors in Geneva, where the WTO headquarters are located. The decision made by these bureaucrats can impact whether certain practices or policies can be implemented, such as the right to patent biotech hormones in meat, or prevent the destruction of virgin forests. Critics argue that this transfer of power of the WTO undermines democratic decision-making process, as the people affected by this decision have no say in the decision-making process. This can result in decisions that benefit the interests of large corporations rather than the interests of local communities and people. The critics argue that this undermines very basic of democracy and accountable decision making. The text describes how under the new system, many decisions that affect billions of people are no longer made by local or national government, but instead will be deferred to a group of unelected bureaucrats sitting behind closed doors in Geneva. If challenged, by any video member nation. The text argues that the system risks is very basic of democracy and accountable decision making. In contrast, some economists and politicians argue that supranational organizations like video serve collective interests of member states and do not support those interests. They point out that the power of this organization relies on their ability to persuade member states to follow certain action. Reflect. The text suggests that power of the video and the other supranational organization can undermine democratic decision making by allowing unelected bureaucrats to making decisions that affect people on a large scale. The argument is made that the system can be detrimental in democracy and accountable decision making. However, the text also acknowledges that some people believe that these organizations serve the collective interests of member states and their power is limited to what member states agree to grant. Recite. The text argues that power of supranational organizations like video can undermine democratic decision making. Under the new system, many decisions that affect a billion of people are made by unelected bureaucrats behind closed doors. This risk is very basic of democracy and accountable decision making. However, some people argue that these organizations share the collective interests of member states and that their power is limited to what member states agree to grant. Review. The text discusses the power of supranational organizations like video and how this can affect democratic decision making. The text argues that the current system risks the basics of democracy and accountable decision making by allowing unelected bureaucrats to make decisions that affect people on a large scale. However, some people argue that these organizations serve the collective interests of member states and that their power is limited to what member states agree to grant. Sekian penjelasan tentang SQ4R dari kelompok kami. Terima kasih.